All right, so I'm sitting down with Rob, talking to him about his army and his ideas about this matchup in this in the Adepticon format. So first question being, do you like being able to set your own terrain as opposed to set tournament terrain in like a Nova style format?
Yeah, I think there's a couple benefits to it. You can set up firing lanes. You can also use it to block line of sight for some of your smaller scoring units. But there's also a downside, I feel, in that the time it takes to set up can also cut into your overall battle time, which can be detrimental towards the end of the game.
Absolutely, especially if, well, I know you're playing Necrons, so you won't have a lot of psychic powers and things like that to roll. But with other armies, it can be an issue bogging it down in time. I understand that. What do you expect your MVP unit to be in this matchup?
Well, with the list I put together, I think it's going to have to probably be the Wraiths that pulled their weight. I got 2 units of them that are fairly identical, except for one with the Warlord with the Resurrection Orb. I'm pretty much banking on those guys surviving and doing most of the work in this game.
Yeah, just being your primary workhorse. And what do you think your key to victory is going to be in this scenario?
Well, I'm playing Space Marine bikes, so I think the key to victory is going to be being able to take out his troops. I know one of the objectives is kill points, so being able to take out all of his small little scoring units will be big. But all in all, if I can just put enough shots on the things, then hopefully that can win me the game.
Right on, right on. How do you like your army in your setup versus this matchup? How do you like the matchup?
I think it's actually a fairly good matchup for the Necrons. The biggest problem I'm going to have is breaking armor, so hopefully there's not a whole lot. There's the 3-up of the average Space Marine. Not too concerned about the T5 on the bikes, but like I said before, if I can put enough shots on with my Tesla and Gauss shots, then hopefully it'll be enough to cause some failed armor saves.
Right, just make them roll enough dice that you can
that's
bring
the
them
plan.
down. Right on, right on. And with the Adepticon format playing a large role, do you plan, or the secondaries playing a large role? Do you plan on actively pursuing those secondaries, or do you more plan on mitigating your opponent's ability to get those secondaries?
Well, I think I always try to focus on secondaries. First Blood, obviously, is usually pretty key. If I get the opportunity to get it, I'm definitely going to try to take it. Line Breaker also is something that I always try to do. If I can get Line Breaker towards the end, that's another easy point. The hard one's always Warlord, and especially if he's running the Chapter Master, that's going to be tough, because getting through that invulnerable save and the 2+ and the Feel No Pain might not be worth the effort to try to take it. As far as denying him, if he can get First Blood, I tried to build a list that is hard to take First Blood. You got a lot of Armor 13 and big heavy units, so hopefully I can mitigate that. Stop his Line Breaker. I got enough backfield, heavy shooting. Hopefully he can't get anything through. And unfortunately, Warlord's probably gonna be my biggest give up, because I am depending on my Warlord to pull his weight.
Yeah, absolutely. Him being up front in there with the Wraiths and hopefully just surviving through everything.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thanks a lot, Rob.
All right, thank you.
All right, so I'm sitting down with Matt Cerino. He's going to be running Space Marines today in our battle report. Matt, I have a couple questions for you. First one being, do you like being able to set your own terrain in Adepticon format versus the set terrain of Nova style format and other formats?
I think I like being able to set my terrain. It varies the games up a little bit, makes them more interesting. Also, in that sense, it gives you a little more chance for some strategy. My army in particular doesn't care as much. Maybe it's nice to be able to hide some troops in the back if I can get a larger line of sight blocking piece. But otherwise, I like it. It gives more strategy. My army doesn't care too much about it.
All right, right on. I'm also wondering what your MVP of your army list is, what your MVP unit will be.
Unit is Command Squad. The actual focus of my army, I'm really going to have to utilize Jaws and my orbital bombardment and hopefully get some good shots off with that, and that's really going to try to turn the tide a little bit.
Okay. And what do you think your key to victory in this scenario is going to be?
I think it's going to be a little bit easier for me to go for kill points. I do have more scoring units in general, which should give me an advantage, but also he's going to have the night sights. They're going to drop guys off. I hopefully can hunt the Annihilation Barges. They're going to be the biggest threat, so I'd like to be able to try to get them easily, and that also net me some kill points. Overall, I'm going to have to really react to how the game's going and react to kind of how he's playing with it.
Okay. Do you like the matchup, the Necron versus Bikes matchup that you're going to be playing?
The problem I run into is the Annihilation Barge is his big shooting unit, and for me, one of the strengths is I've got the bikes, which are mobile and they're toughness 5. Well, the Annihilation Barge and the Night Sides just don't care about toughness 5, so that's going to be a little bit of a weakness. I'm really going to have to hope to either hope they stay in reserves, hope I can move them, move them away from where you can see them, or just make a lot of 3-ups is going to be the name of my game today.
Just making sure you roll those saves when he makes you take them off.
Yes, if I can roll a bunch of 3-ups, I think it's good, but the way I've been rolling, I'm going to probably put this in a bad matchup category.
The bad matchup category, all right. Now, with the Adepticon format, secondaries play a large role. Are you going to be actively seeking to get those secondaries, or is it more going to be trying to mitigate your opponent from getting them?
I mean, I don't know if I'm going to be seeking them. Like, Linebreaker's going to be really easy for me to get, just to jump bike move at the end, right at the end of the game. First Blood, I think, is going to be really the crucial one. I don't think I'm going to be able to really get Warlord unless I get a good Jaws off, or I get a good bombardment, or I find a good opportunity to charge his Warlord's Wraith unit. I don't think he's going to get Warlord either. I mean, as much as I might have my Chapter Master out in front to eat saves, like, he's got enough wounds, when in doubt, he'll just fall to the back and just to keep him alive to deny that. So I guess it does play a little more of a point. Normally for me, when I'm playing with the Chapter Master and Warlord doesn't matter, I'll just throw caution to the wind, and Chapter Master's going to go do whatever the hell he wants. Right. And if he dies, he dies. That's great. If it wastes 3 turns of him shooting to kill it, it did its job. But with this, if the game gets close, Chapter Master might be hiding. If I'm out in front, I might go a little more ballsy with him and could screw myself. Who knows? It'll be fun.
All right, thanks a lot, Matt.
Yep.
Hey guys, Jesse here from Team Stompogrunds, and with me is Kevin from Team Stompogrunds.
How's it going, guys?
Today we have Matt Cerino playing White Scar Bikes versus Rob Fortin's Necrons. And Kevin, what are you seeing right now with with Rob's deployment, Matt's deployment?
Well, from what we can see, Rob's set up in a pretty much straight line. He's going to want to try to alpha strike as much as possible. Whereas Matt seems like he's setting up his Thunderfires and a lot of stuff that he off to one side, and his Stalkers are kind of off by themselves right now. Which I don't. What do you think about that?
So Matt's deployment is playing the reserve game. He has a lot of guys that are able to reserve. So he's doing that and trying to keep what little units he has available alive. So he's just Stalkers on the side, potentially to split the army. I'm not really sure his game plan with them. We'll have to find out. But more importantly, his unit of command squad with his rune priests and all that, they're all behind that line of sight blocker, so they can't be shot. So, you see Matt measuring out his distances to make sure as few shots as possible come through on turn 1. And that allows him to deploy, kind of limit Rob from being able to hit him before his reserves come out. Kind of playing an Alpha Strike variant of his own. Enable the majority of his armies alive to hit Rob after Rob's reserves have come in. So Rob starts his movement up and kind of swinging around to try to get around that line of sight blocker. Unfortunately, it's well enough placed by Matt, with them being able to place their own terrain, that it kind of enables Matt to hide behind that without getting shot, only leaving the Stalkers as his target, which Rob takes advantage of his first turn targets. I mean, what else are you going to do? You might as well shoot at them.
Right. I kind of like that about the Adepticon terrain, where you can pretty much I like the ability, the additional strategy of setting up your own terrain versus the Nova style, where it's the set terrain and you have to go by what's already there.
So with Rob's initial shots only stripping off a couple hull points, you see Matt moving out from behind this wall here. Now with the White Scars ignoring terrain, jumping through the terrain doesn't really bother him as much. He only has to take dangerous terrains on his rune priests. The initial game plan is that's Rob's Warlord unit over there. Try to utilize your Jaws, Orbital Bombardment, things like that to get Warlord. So Matt opens up with some shooting. He also gets his Thunderfire, which gets a bad scatter, but still manages to kill and break the Necron warriors in the back. So it kind of looks like Matt played his hand, but remember, none of his reserves are in. However, Rob is playing his hand. His reserves are coming in, and he's trying to capitalize on taking advantage of Matt's unit being out in the open. That's a majority of Matt's punch. If he can neuter that squad, he can then pick off the troops at will with all of his strength 7 shooting. So he brings 2 of his night sights full of Gauss Immortals out, kind of lays them up for some rapid fire shots, maneuvers his 3rd scythe as well as the Annihilation Barges to go after those Stalkers, because now those scythes are on the board. Those Stalkers are priority number 2 behind this unit. I mean, they'll just shred a night scythe.
So what I see going on here is that Rob's actually doing what we initially thought, in that he's splitting his army, which is kind of what we thought Matt might want to be doing. Now I'm worried here for the command squad because they are a bunch of tough guys, but those Wraiths are really close.
Those Wraiths are really close. One key note, though, is Matt's maneuvering. He made it so that his Warlord, who uses jetpack or his jump pack movement, has to charge through terrain. So that's going to slow him down a little bit. But you see the shooting going in. They take out both Stalkers. The Immortals actually managed to kill off, in this round of shooting, kill off one Rune Priest, put a wound on another Rune Priest to kill like 1 or 2 Bikers, as well as the Night Sights. However, he fails the charge. He rolls like a 2 when he needs a 4-inch charge.
Oh, that's perfect.
So now you have match reserves coming in, able to take advantage of certain units, like the Melta Squad coming in behind this Annihilation Barge.
Yeah, the Annihilation Barges are scary. I can imagine Matt wanting to take those out.
It's the Strength 7 shooting. It's basically you're paying a premium to have Toughness 5 to be wounded harder, and all of Rob's shooting ignores that. So, I mean, it's effectively turning you into just fast regular Space Marines. Unlike regular Space Marines, you don't have the bodies. You know, you're paying a points premium. Another big thing we to note is Matt's command squad's perfectly fine here, which allows Matt to pick the fight with the Wraiths versus the Wraiths pick the fight. That enables him to pick who gets in the Mind Shackle, Scarab range, things like that. The only thing I dislike about this is Matt really is forced to commit heavily to this side because he outflanked rather, and his units are kind of clumped up. So that's kind of scary when you have a pack of 6 Wraiths and another Destroyer Lord. His other unit comes in on the left-hand side, and he brings his Space Wolves in over where the dead Stalkers is. So he's really saying, okay, Rob, you split your forces, you committed to this side, I will commit to this side as well. And because of that, my command squad, it's whose big unit's going to get through who's first. My bet is on the command squad.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the Grav would wound the Wraiths on a 3, correct? Because they have a 3-up armor save, 3-up invul?
Correct. They still have a 3-up armor save, even though nobody ever takes it because their invulnerable save is technically better because it's always there. Big thing that happens, though, in this is he actually kills the Warlord, but he stands back up, charges in, brings it down to 1 Wraith, 1 Warlord, which is huge because without that Warlord or that Wraith left alive, that Warlord's no longer fearless. He's going to get caught in the sweeping advance. So not much damage was put on those Immortals. And as I said, Matt is committed to the right-hand side of your screen. So that enables Rob to just pick up, put all of his guys in his Night Sights, and commit his Night Sights to just shooting over there and things like that. Just wait a fire, try to bring them down, while the command squad is tied up in this combat. So he can't shoot at that command squad anymore. So he effectively has to ignore it.
Right. It's the nice thing about the way that flyers work is it can be at a disadvantage from what I can tell, but it's also nice that you can just beeline it to if an army splits, you can just beeline it to another set of units.
Exactly. So he brought his 2 Night Sights over to lend fire on the back squad. You see his Wraiths are moving in for a multi-assault. He has his Annihilation Barge and his Immortals to fire into the other squad. Or not Immortals, but Night Scythe rather. And then that's the big multi-assault. So in this multi-assault, Matt loses 4 out of 5 guys in one squad. And he breaks and runs with that one member. The other squad does break, but they're not caught in sweeping advance. And they don't run off the table.
Because and they shall know no fear?
Correct. But this is a big thing. This is very big. Matt kills the Warlord and then maneuvers his bikes so he can't stand back up. So the reanimation protocol is worthless. So now bottom of turn 3, his command squad is out of combat. It is free to kind of do its thing and start catching up. So with everything committed to this side, his command squad has to make its move onto this side, but there's still some targets in the way. Case in point, this Annihilation Barge. This bike squad, he's counting on killing the Annihilation Barge. Clearly, he's counting on killing the Annihilation Barge by separating it. He splits Khan off and he goes, well, you have no flyers that can really lend fire into this bike squad. So this bike squad is essentially safe. So he doesn't have to run and hide it, things like that.
So at this point, he can kind of use that command squad to try to flank the things that he's scared of.
Yep. So he just lands bolter fire into Wraiths, killing off a couple of them. And, bolters are just as effective as a lot of other means, it just, because they still only are toughness 4 with the 3-up save. In close combat, he wrecks the Annihilation Barge, kind of leaving Rob in a really precarious spot here.
You say he's in a precarious spot, Jesse. Why is that?
Mainly because Rob's reserves are all in. So his 5-man warrior squad has walked in on this side. His other warrior squad, as we know, has been getting pummeled by the Thunderfire cannon. It's finally back underneath the thing, but all Matt's reserves aren't in. He's failed to kill all of Matt's troops. He still has some Space Wolves left, still has bikes here, bikes in the back, and then he still has a 5-man scout squad. So he's heavily committed to this one side that allows Matt's mobility to kind of come back and get him. You know, he has to kill off all these troops on this side, and he absolutely has to in like a turn. So it's forcing him to drop his immortals. His Night Scythe flies off.
Right on. So at this point, the lack of mobility in Rob's scoring units is really the downfall. Could possibly be the downfall.
Yeah, I mean, again, with him dropping out, it's leaving him vulnerable. Remember, the command squad's not far away. He manages to clean up a couple of the squads, but I mean, the command squad is inside charge range, and all of Rob's reserves haven't come in till just now. So he has the scouts coming in. He has a bike
Match
squad.
reserves.
Match reserves, you're right. He has the bike squad in the back. Khan, who remember is broken off, so Khan is easily able to kind of go pick a fight with some little squad. You know, he's still very durable, 3-up save, toughness 4, 3 wounds. So in this turn shooting, he's killed that squad with the 3-man bikes that he's been picking on with the Thunderfire cannon. He creates a very important Jaws line that allows a multi-assault, and he pins the other Immortal squad with the Thunderfire. So those Immortals being pinned, there's no more mobility left in Rob's plan.
Yeesh.
So you see this Night Scythe coming in? He has to commit here. That still has 5 warriors in it. He gets them out. He has to kill that 3-man bike squad. Like, that's it. Those Immortals on the side by this SG template that's underneath his Night Scythe, they're pinned. His other Immortals were locked in combat. They broke out. They just rallied.
And the command squad's knocking at the doorstep.
Exactly. It's in combat with Wraiths. How long can a Wraith hold out? That's the question. Remember, Matt also has hit and run, so he can't rely on the Wraiths holding up that command squad with hit and run. You see Khan kind of coming over on the side here, setting up for a very long charge. Rob shoots his Annihilation Barge into the scouts, as well as these Necron Immortals who lose a guy to the Tesla Arc, the Night Scythe, and only kill, I believe, 1 member of the squad. So on turn 5, Matt still has his scouts left. They're in fortified terrains now. They're just going to run up to be able to go to ground, contest the objective. That 3-man bike squad, which is actually unbeknownst to me, is still a 3-man bike squad. They didn't actually lose a guy, so he just stood in his head. Is able to assault the squad. Khan's able to assault a squad. You know, you see the 3-man bike squad lose a guy in close combat, but they're still locked in combat, which makes them, you know, immune to the shooting of the Necron army. That's still, you know, fairly potent. And it comes down to this roll, but the game doesn't end.
Got another turn.
We do indeed have one more turn.
But it does seem like that even with another turn, it's going to be very difficult for Rob to pull this out.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult. I mean, Khan's in combat with a unit of warriors. He has 1 troop left, another troop unit that's in a unit of warriors, and that 1 troop unit that's left has the entire command squad just looking at it.
The command squad scares me.
It's very scary. I mean, and the problem the Immortals run into is they have a good armor save, which means they're fresh command squad bait with all those grav guns.
So Rob's shooting here. He kills a couple of the veterans, but it seems like he shies away from this combat because he doesn't want to give up that Wraith squad as a kill point.
Correct. And now we have Matt shooting, or his scout squad rather, going to ground, losing 2 guys, but still holding strong. Matt's command squad cleans up the last of the Immortals, and then we go to a very important combat. I'm just going to leave game audio.
I broke Khan.
You what?
Broke Khan.
Oh, he broke Khan. And the game ends with Rob as a loser. That's what he gets.